Hello and welcome to the garage, guys. Today we will be doing a full clutch rebuild on the 1978 Batavis Starflight. Let's get started. This is the fully restored 1978 Batavis Starflight that for some reason I did not make a single video on while we built the engine. It has a high performance head on it. It has an MLM Peebles pipe. And the only thing that hasn't been replaced actually on this right now is the clutch spring at the very back of this clutch. Now I noticed that there weren't any videos on how to replace this spring, so I will be doing a full clutch disassembly and then showing you how to put it back together. First things first, we're going to take this front starter bracket needs to come off. There are 2 bolts underneath right here, size 8 metric. We're going to go ahead and take those off, and this just compresses and then you can pull the cable through. Those 2 bolts are out. This bottom piece just slides out, and then you can push this forward and pull it completely off. Next, we're going to go on to these. These are also size 8 metric, and these ones I just have hand tied right now because the clutch is sticking because of the backing spring that we're going to be replacing. Let's go ahead and get this front plate off next. And this plate is pressurized with a spring behind it, so I would recommend using some caution or applying some pressure when you loosen this last bolt up, just so that it doesn't fly off and hit you in the face. Just like that. You have a little bit of pressure. This last bolt off. It's not anything crazy, not anything that's gonna hurt you, but as you can see, it is slightly pressurized, and that's because of this spring right here. This is a good time to take these backing plates and check to make sure that they don't have any rust on them. If they do, hit them with anywhere between 1,500 and 3,000 grit sandpaper so that you don't have any rust left over. The next thing you're going to want to do is check your clutch spring. This is a new one, so as you can see that it is firm. This isn't the spring we're replacing today, we're actually replacing the one in the very back. So we'll go ahead and take this apart. Next comes your clutch pad. And this little thing, not really sure what it's called. Don't lose this. It goes onto one of the clutch pad fans, I guess is what we'll call that, like that. It's a good time to check your pad. This one has good depth to it, as you can see. If yours is too thin, you'll have some slippage. If it is too thick, you'll have some catching. This one has been shaved down so that we didn't get any slipping. I will also be linking all of these parts in the bio so that you guys can purchase them for yourself. So next, I normally use a flathead screwdriver or a small Allen key to get this back plate off. It's just because it's behind the rear housing. So you just kind of shimmy it out like this. It's good to keep your components in order too. So what I normally like to do is go from back to front, like so. You just have that in order so that you know which way these things go. Just like that. There we go. And then here is the part that we are replacing today. It is this spring. As you can see, it is super rusted out. Here's comparison to the new one. You can see why we're replacing it. I've never actually taken this off before, and of course there aren't any videos on how to take it off. I'm assuming it just pries off. There are ball bearings inside of this, so I would be careful when prying it off if you're trying to just clean it and recover it. I'm gonna go ahead and mess with this a little bit, and I'll let you guys know what I find out. And what I did was I ended up just getting a hook like this, and while it was on there, I clipped it down inside like this and just pulled it out. Simple as that. And as you can see, this thing is completely shot. What I'll be doing is I'll be taking some fine sandpaper in the back here and sanding this stuff down so that we get a nice metal finish. I'm sure the rust isn't good for it. As a little side-by-side comparison to show you. This was actually not horrible, but I know it is original. And the spring density, the ball bearings don't move inside it freely because they are rusted on this corner here. So this one's a lot tougher and the ball bearings will move freely. Let's go ahead and sand this down and then we'll get the clutch assembly back together. Go ahead and just grab some gray Scotch-Brite. This is equivalent to about 800 grit. generally speaking, 600 to 800, anywhere between there. So I'm just gonna take this and smooth it on the inside there. I'm gonna need 2 hands to do it. Touch back base with you guys when we're done. All right, so we went ahead and got this pretty cleaned up. Looks significantly better than it did. You can also hit it with some PB Blaster, but I do not have any, unfortunately, so won't be doing that today. Just a reminder, this is a dry clutch. Do not grease or lubricate this in any way, otherwise you will have slippage. So let's go ahead and get this new spring on and then rebuild this clutch, just the same way that we took it apart in reverse, going back. One thing you want to make sure before you fasten these bolts all the way down is that this plate, this top plate here, is not loose. So you see how when I press on mine, it doesn't really give very much. There's a way you can put this on where you have to slide it into the grooves kind of underneath. If you're doing this, you'll understand what I mean, in order to make sure that it's rotating properly. So as you can see, this backing spring has already loosened up our clutch so that it will spin freely, independent of the drive pulley. So let's go ahead and put our new cover we got back on. I don't think this one's gonna work, so I'm pretty sure I'll have to 3D print one, but we'll go ahead and give this a try and see if this one works. One more thing, this is a tricky part too. There's this little plate here that goes on the inside so that the bolts can be threaded through underneath for this starter, I don't even know what you want to call it, starter arm, I guess. So what I did was I took a little piece of tape and taped it on there so that they're in place, lined up, ready to go. All right, guys, well, I'm actually amazed. This fixed all of my clutch hassles, just that little spring. So if you are having clutch sticking problems, clutch slipping problems, and you've replaced your pad, you don't know what's going on with Batavis, it's super tricky to find videos because nobody makes them. That's why I wanted to make this one. It is that spring. I will link it below. I got it from a place called Myron Mopeds. It seems kind of sketchy because you have to PayPal him before he sends it, and then you don't get a tracking number. But it always comes on time. 3-day delivery, super fast. The guy is super nice, and he is legitimate, so don't be sketched out. I bought a bunch of things from him. The clutch cover, however, I would say don't waste your money with it. This plastic one, right over here, doesn't really work. Put a little chip in my belt because it doesn't hold on properly. Yeah, don't waste your money with this guy. Only spent, I think it was like 10 or 15 bucks, so not too much. So what I'm gonna end up doing is measuring this and 3D printing it. Last but not least, let's start this thing up for you guys so you can hear how it sounds. The clutch spring gave me extra acceleration on the bottom end and about an extra 5 miles per hour on the top end. I was cruising at about 40, 45 miles an hour down the street. So let's go ahead and start this real quick for you guys. Consider giving us a subscribe. If you want to see more of this moped, how I built the engine and how I made it what it is today, I'm happy to show you guys. Just leave that below in the comments and we'll get to it. I'll see you next time back at the garage.